What's up, guys? Welcome back to the ranch. All right, ranchers, it's mid-April and I'm starting to think about mid-June. And what's going to happen in mid-June? Well, in my food plot, I should have a tall standing plot full of rye grain, and I'm going to want to cultipack or crimp that over to seed my summer rotation, which in my case is going to be buckwheat into that. And today, I'm going to make a small handheld crimper. In the past, I've used my quad, I've used the cultipacker to roll over the whole plot, but today I'm going to take you through a fast way to make a small manual crimper that will be able to be used by you to walk around and step on your crops and crimp them over. Now I know what you're saying, if I got 8 acres out in the field, why would I ever entertain something like this? Well, this is not for you, sir. Just pay attention. In any case, for me, I am doing this for the guy like myself who maybe has a small food plot, a small, inaccessible kill plot back in the woods that he can't get machinery in, and he wants to use a no-till process or a grow cycle rotation or something where he would need a piece of equipment that's tiny and portable. And that's what I'm making today. A small handheld crimper that you can carry into the woods and crimp over stuff you planted and seed into it. Maybe the fall food plot. Maybe you're crimping to put the summer rotation there, buckwheat for the summer, and then you're gonna crimp it again and put the fall food plot in it at that point. All right, so let's get in and let's build a small manual crimper. All right, guys, let's talk crimper. How am I making this? Well, we're making it really cheap with a bunch of scrap wood I have laying around my little workshop here. And what that scrap wood is basically, it's a little bit of a 1x2. It's a trim board, essentially. Take that out of the way. I have a nice board, a 6x1.5. That's what I have here. This is some scrap I had, and this is also how I came up with the length. You could make your crimper as wide as you want to carry around. It's going to be 32 inches, just under 3 feet. I also feel like anything more than 3 feet is going to be tough to carry around and, you know, be getting through the woods and stuff. So 32 inches is going to be perfect. This is what the board was here. I pre-cut my trim boards already too for the same size, just because I'm not here to teach you how to use a saw on this video. I'm here to just show you how to do this without any real tools or any sort of equipment and whatnot. And also some angle iron, which I also pre-cut. I had some laying around, and I'm going to use 2 sections of this to make up 3 sections of angle iron. So let's recap. We got the main board, which is your main footboard. We got trim board, which I cut 4 pieces of trim board to the same length, which is 32 inches of the main board. And then I have angle iron. Optimally, you would want 3 solid pieces of the same size of your board. Same size as the board, like voila. And then we're just gonna need a screw gun, some exterior screws. I'm going with 1.25 inches, and some rope, because you're gonna want rope to connect to the top of this. I went with something kind of thick here, just because I figured I'd have gloves on, and I didn't want something dainty. This might become annoying because I won't be able to roll it up later as nice and say a small piece of twine or something, but I also don't want to deal with it breaking. I don't want it cutting into my hands. So I got this nice thick nylon rope. And last, I got a couple of eye hooks. And I'm going to show you, I got one that has a bolt and a washer, and one that's just, you know, your standard screw-in eye hook here. And that's what we're going to tie the rope into and connect the rope to the board. All right, let's get going. Take your board, figure out which side you want the top. I'm just going to go with the big knot on top. This way, I got a plan. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take our angle iron, which I'll show you this angle iron I got, in case you were wondering what is this angle iron. And that's the angle iron I got. Real kind of cheap stuff. I used it for another project, but here it is, getting used again with the leftover scrap I had. I cut this with just a hacksaw, and then all the other wood was cut for this project because the board was cut already with a table miter saw. Real cheap stuff here. I mean, this just wedges on the end of your table and you cut it up. So I made a couple of cuts. All right, back to my board. So I'm taking this piece of angle iron and I'm going to come to the middle of my board here because we're going to talk about where I want to put the rope. And this is going to, you want to mark this now because we're going to essentially need to make a hole that'll line up with your angle iron. I'm going to take the board I have here and lay it out kind of to get an idea of where I'm going to make the holes for the top for our eye hooks first before I put all the angle iron in. This way when I have to drill through it or when I screw this one in, I know I'm going to come up on a hole on the angle iron as opposed to into the steel and stop me. And you'll kind of see where we're headed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of angle iron like that. And then I'm going to take my next angle iron like that. And then I'm going to take my last angle iron like that. And that is where our pieces are going to end up. And also going to show you pretty much where we're going to head to on the bottom. So I'm going to lay the wood in there, and I'm going to put this, and I'm going to center it as much as possible. Well, actually, I'm not going to center it. I'm sorry, because we need the last piece of wood, 4 boards like that. And now on the side, I'm just going to trace in where my angle iron is, right there, right there, right there on both sides, right there, and right there. Take all this off, and you can see I made 4 markings there that pretty much mimic where our angle iron is going to be on the top of this board. So now I'm going to take a piece of angle iron, and I'm going to line it up as if it's in that center spot there, or close to the center as possible. And that's a bad angle iron, it has a sticker on it. So I'm going to take this angle iron and I'm going to put it like as if it was on that. And I'm going to make the mark where that hole will be. So I've made the mark. Angle iron lined up, and I'll come in and I'll show you. The angle iron lines up, and I made a hole tracing on the top of the board, there and there. This way, when it all goes together on the other side, I should catch the holes to drill through and screw the eye hooks in for the rope. So now we're going to come back, turn it upside down. Well, not upside down. Now we're working on the bottom. The 2 holes are on the top. And we're just going to lay out our angle iron and a board. A piece of angle iron. Well, I'm going to use the two little guys here in the bottom. Angle iron. And a board. And I'm going to do the last piece, the last 3rd angle iron. Little trim board. And then lastly, the last trim board. Now, as you can see, this is going to make the basis for the bottom of our crimper. Came up with this method because you're going to have a board supporting a piece of angle iron and then another board supporting the front, so the angle iron becomes like teeth. So you can see the teeth on that. Look at those teeth. And I'll explain a little bit more once I screw this together. So I'm kind of a big fan of pre-drilling. So I'm going to take this end board that we just laid out and line it up as much as possible to both ends and the face of the board. And I'm just going to pre-drill a few holes. This just prevents the board from cracking when we screw it in. Now I'm gonna put it back in my screw gun. I'm using just exterior 1 1/4 screws, which I had laying around. And now I'm gonna just take out a few and screw this bad boy down, this first board. So this is the board with nothing underneath it, no angle iron. This is to be the end of the board there. And I'm gonna line it up as close as possible and straight as possible with the end of the board. And I'm gonna screw that in. And pre-drilling makes that really nice and simple. And you can see these are going to get deep enough into that where 1 1/4 inches is all we need. All right, there's that. Now, force our angle iron as close to the end as possible. Put in our next board. I'm going to remove just so I can see what I'm working with. And the cool thing about this process is all your holes line up with the holes in the bottom of the board there. So we're going to do a little pre-drill again. Line everything up. Pre-drill right in the middle of our board. And I'm going to stagger the screws a little bit. Not that that matters, but just, I don't think I need 6. I'm going to go with 5. All right, so there's our 5 pre-drilled holes. Got my screws for this little strip. And in they go. And it seems to be going right according to my plan. We're missing all the holes there. We follow the angle iron holes and it's getting screwed in really nice and tight. There we go. Lay out your next angle iron piece. Board. This one's actually a little short. That's because I was dealing with what I had. So I'm just going to center it. Go back to my little drill bit here. I know some of you YouTubers want to know all the specifics, so it's just a 7/16 drill bit. It's very tiny, but we're not using big screws. And pre-drill again. Line up your holes. Hold the hole in the angle iron. pulling it tight. Boom. Now our last piece of angle iron fit nice and flush. Our last little trim board going in. Back to pre-drilling the holes. And there we go. There is our deck of our crimper. Look at that. Those are going to be nice teeth, all sticking up. And you want those teeth because that's just going to crimp and crush and break those rye grains or whatever buckwheat stalk that you put pressure on and crimp and kill and terminate it. And here's our top again. All right, guys, so I had to back out this screw, and on the same side, on the other side of this board, I'm going to back out this screw, and that's because our marks are lined up where I chose the same spot. Don't do that when you do that. So this way, now when I screw in our hooks, we don't compete with the screw through the whole board. So I'm going to back those two out, which I did on this side already. And now I'm using a 3/8 drill bit, because we're going to run through a 3/8 and 4-inch eye bolt to tie our rope to. So that's out, and now I'm going to drill through that. Let's see, can you see that in the shot? No. Maybe now? All right, there you go. And this should be lined up already. And there you go. I caught the hole in the eye hook all nice, and that's all set. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to feed my bolt right through this. Like so. Flip it over, put on my washer, put on my nut. I'm going to tighten that up in post. You don't need me to see how to tighten a nut. Now I know you're saying, well, that's going to stick up just a little bit more. It's quite fine. You should be stepping on dirt anyway with this. And what are you going to do? Poke one aeration hole in? I'm sure it will be fine. Now we're going to go to the other side. The other side now, I have a different method. Instead of going all the way through with a nut and a bolt, I just got a 3/8 eye hook. So I'm going to pre-drill this as well, but I'm going to do that with a much smaller drill bit instead of 3/8 size. I'm going to do that with, I think I'll do 13/64, just to make sure I don't make the hole too big. I want to catch enough meat on everything that stays in. Again, I'm taking out this screw that I didn't need there because we're going to put this drilled right through. Didn't quite make my mark, but close. And now I know I'm through the angle iron, and I'm just gonna screw in my eye hook. There you you can see I put a washer there just because protect the wood a little bit when I screw this in. And I'm going to screw this in. Now, having the bolt on the first connection is definitely a stronger option, but I think it's an overkill. I think you'd be fine with a lag eye like this, but being that I had that other one, I decided to just go with what I had. Like I said, with what's around my shop. I'm just going to tighten this in. Like that. And that is in. And I can see on the bottom, it coming out of our hole, which is fine. That's going to hold this board in place anyway from the other angle, from the top. So that'll actually be perfect. I think I'll go just another turn or two on this. There we go. I like that. I like that. Now our 2 eye hooks are in, and we have our board. And for the final step, we're attaching our rope, and I'm just going to run it through, make myself a nice knot on each end, give myself some extra, and then I'll do the same over here. Run it through. And now you want the rope to be about waist high on you. This way, when you step on this, because that's the ultimate goal, you're going to step on this. And you want to be able to pop this up and move it forward. So you want it about waist height on you, which for me is right about there. And knot this up. Definitely not a knot Boy Scout guy. I'm sure there's some guy yelling, "What kind of knot is this? Oh my God." But you know what? This is going to work for me. It will get it done for me. And there you go. There is your crimper. Nice and portable and able to be moved around your property with real ease. Now, angle iron with the board and the other board in front is to prevent the angle iron from bending when you step on it and put pressure on it in the field. And that's it. That's our crimper. My plan for this bad boy is to do a little painting on it, spray it with some polyurethane just to protect it a little bit from the elements, but generally you're not going to leave this in the woods soaking wet, so pressure treated might be an overkill. How much you're really going to keep this wet that it'll rot, I'm not sure, so that's up to you, but I did this with what's laying around in my garage. All right, so here is the little crimper we made with a couple of boards laying around and some rope and an eye hook. And if you're asking, well, how exactly does this work to crimp? Pretty much just like this. If your crops are standing, you step on it, rotate, and pick it up and go to the next spot and just walk down your whole field. And that's how this is going to work. This little crimper that I can now roll up and carry into the woods with me and make some kill plots or some transition plots that are really small in the backwoods. Something like this will be very helpful. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to put some polyurethane and a little bit of paint on this bad boy. All right, guys. I had some orange, I had my flag decals, and I had a little bit of white spray paint. So there it is, all painted. This is our crimper. When it dries, I'll throw some polyurethane spray paint over it just to protect the wood a little bit further. Guys, it's June 11th now, and we made it to the field with the crimper. And now I'm going to give you a demonstration of what we just built and how it works to crimp over crops such as this rye grain, or maybe you would use this on your buckwheat later on at the end of summer. So let's check this out and let's see how this works. As I come through, I move forward a few inches and I press down and rotate my foot, allowing the grooves or teeth to crimp and cut the rye, terminating it. So look at that first pass. One pass, and it is laying down. That seed is now covered, protected, and it is crimped and laying over the seed so the seed can germinate with a little bit of protection, a little bit of moisture falling on it, and like a greenhouse effect. Perfect. So I wanted to give you a hands-on, up close what this looks like when we do it. So we're in the rye. You can see the rye and clover mixture, and we grab a bit and you rotate your foot, and then you come forward a few inches and you press and rotate your foot. You come forward, rotate your foot, and as you go, you keep using the teeth at the bottom of the crimper to crimp and flatten and cut and terminate that rye. And we just make a mat. And look, there's the rye. And that's what we just ran over. Look at that. All right, ranchers, and that's crimping the plot. Thanks for watching.